Hi, everybody. I'm Jack Canfield, your host. Welcome back to the show. My next guest is Michelle Faust. She is the founder of Lemonade Legend, a company offering both print and media exposure through her anthology series, digital magazine, a publishing house, a podcast, and virtual stages, and 2 upcoming TV shows. A very busy woman, as you'll see. Now, Michelle's mission is to create the largest storytelling distribution network in the world in order to give people a voice, to share their stories and elevate them above the conventional noise. Welcome to the show, Michelle.
Oh, thank you. I'm just thrilled to be here.
Well, thrilled to have you. Now, you've been doing this Lemonade Legend work. What's the most surprising discovery along your journey with this that you've had so far?
I think that would have to be the discovery that there are so many women who are just dying to tell their story. I never realized what a need it was. I knew that I had a need to want to share my story, but I never realized the number of women who really need to just have a voice for whatever their story is. Some are deep and dark and difficult to share. Some are a little bit more relatable to everyday situations that occur, but they're realizing the power of their voice, and they're finding their voice, and that they simply didn't know how to put their voice out there. And I guess in the beginning, I didn't realize that I would find that number of people who just want to be heard.
I think that's a human quality that everybody wants to be heard, paid attention to, acknowledged, and validated. Now, you started with a series of compilation books where you had stories from different people, and now you're doing whole books with people. Talk about how that got started and where you are now in this process of unfolding this vision of yours.
Yeah, which is a big vision. But I was told to dream big. I think I might have gotten that from Success Principles. But it started just simply that I had a story to tell, and I wanted to share it. And it was something that just kept bubbling up in me. And I would talk to so many different people in the publishing world, and I couldn't really afford to do a whole book. Wasn't even sure anyone would be interested in just my story. And that's where, with some brainstorming, we came up with the idea to do a collaborative series. So those individuals shared in the cost, they shared in the whole writing of it. I was basically project manager, and it was just a beautiful book. And I always thought it would be a one and done, but it was received so well. There was so much excitement and energy around the launch. It was back pre-COVID when we could actually have a launch party. And I just received so much feedback, and people saying, I have a story. I want to share a story. I want to be in your next book. And I wasn't even planning a next book. But when I heard that enough times, I realized that I needed a next book. So I started a Facebook group just so that I could keep things rolling, keep people in touch with each other, let them know what was going on with me and within the community. And but I did realize that if I could get out an anthology, maybe 1 or 2 in a year, that might be 20 to 25 women that I could help. And that just seemed very small. So I decided there needed to be more platform, more opportunities for people to share. Everybody has different budgets, comfort levels for speaking and sharing. So that's what led to the different platforms. We went to the digital magazine first, then we created a second magazine that's an exclusive podcasting, virtual events, and soon to come out 2 TV shows that are shown on the alternative networks. So it just evolved. I mean, it was never a plan.
Well, that's how the best things usually go. You know, you do one thing, it leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing, and pretty soon you go, wow, how'd they get here?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, you've had a lot of people tell you that sharing their story has healed them. Wonder if you could share some stories, some examples of people who've shared that with you and how that's worked for them.
Sure, absolutely. And I remember in my first book, I had one of my authors, Myra. She'd been married 5 times. She came from Puerto Rico, typical Catholic upbringing and family values, and she bore a lot of shame. It weighed on her extremely heavily. And as soon as she wrote her book, it was just like everything just poured out of her. And, once you have shared your shame, it loses its power. There's no power to feel shame anymore. And so she embraced that and, in fact, switched her career focus to, she said, what was a transformational coach, a life coach. Now she's focusing on divorced women. And is not afraid to say that she has the experience with divorce to be able to say that she's a coach that can help them out. There's also the story of Vicky from the first book. She was able to take all of her different issues growing up. Most people have more than one story. And she wrote a piece for me that I put in the magazine that was the convergence of self. And she realized that in writing, she looked at all her stories and all the pieces and parts of her story, and she was able to really see who she was as a whole person. And it gave her her purpose and her why. And that changed the whole trajectory of what her career was at that point and what she wanted to focus on. I mean, I can go on and on, but it gives people, for the most part, I will say, there's quite a few people who simply needed that shot in the arm to feel good about themselves, to rid themselves of any of the negativity that they were continuing to carry around with them, and move forward in their lives.
Mm-hmm. I'm guessing that, the lemonade, life hands you a lemon, squeeze it and make lemonade. That's part of the concept. And are most of the stories about people who've had difficult and challenging situations and then how they've been able to transcend those or transform in the process?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's the basis behind it. And it's the basis behind most of the platforms that I've created. And again, some stories are very, very dark and very, very difficult. And some stories are just more relatable, more everyday. Divorce, grief, loss, things that we as human beings on this earth are dealing with all the time. And it's just reinforcement that you can get through it, that you're not alone. I think that's the biggest thing that comes out of this is the people that realize they're not alone. And it's funny. It's funny that individuals would feel that way, but they do. They feel like I'm the only one who's suffering through this domestic violence or whatever the particular situation is. They feel alone, or they simply don't know where to turn. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so one of the beautiful things is that different readers identify with different authors because of their stories. And they've been able to reach out too and say, I'm right where you were. What can I do? What should my next step be? So those readers become an authority in their space because they've been there and done that, and they've come out on the other side. Beautiful.
Now, I know you're still publishing other people's stories. You're going to continue to do that, both in your magazine, your TV show, your podcasts, your books, etc. If somebody feels like they have a great story, but they don't feel like they're a great writer, do you work with people like that? And how do you do it if you do?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. I have an actual writing coach that I can turn to. I have a developmental editor, they edit more deeply than a copy editor, so that they can really smooth out the story and make it something very readable, easy to follow, beautiful, just a beautiful story. And so I've had people who have dictated over the phone and been recorded and told their story, and then my writers and editors have sat down and actually written the story. So it's possible to just simply have that story in your head and in your heart, and be able to get it out on paper. So we work with pretty much everything.
Yeah, I remember being on a TV show once where I was being interviewed, and because I wrote stories, for Chicken Soup for the Soul, and this guy said, everybody has a story to tell. Not everyone's a good writer, but the fact is they still have a story to tell, and those stories need to be heard by other people, as you said, so they don't feel alone. So if people want to find out about your books, because they need to read them, if people want to write a story or a book, and would love to contact you to do that, where do they go? How do they find you?
So my website is lemonadelegend.com. And really, you're going to find everything you need right there. You'll find out how to contact me or contact one of my team members. I actually have a form on the homepage that says "Share My Story." It's just a short synopsis of the story, your email address, your name. And then there's also an opportunity to pick, what are you interested in? Do you want to be an anthology? You want to publish your own book, because we're publishing books now. So you can pick and choose from the different opportunities that are out there. It goes directly to me. I read it. I get back in touch with with the sender, and we have a discovery call and decide where they're going to fit best.
Very good. Well, you got a yellow wall, a yellow shirt. I guess lemon is definitely the theme here. That's very good.
If you can see behind me, I have lemons in a vase, and
I see that. Yeah, now that's good. Cool. Well, you're a delightful person, and you're doing really good work in the world. So I'm glad I can help support it by sharing you with our audience. Thank you for joining us so much today, Michelle. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, because anytime I can share my voice and my passion to people out there and help them share their story, it's a beautiful thing, beautiful opportunity for me, and I thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. My pleasure. And for all of you watching, if you have a story to tell, or you feel like you need to know that you're not alone with the kind of stories we're talking about here, these stories of challenges and transitions and difficult passages in life where you might think you're the only person, you're not. We all have the delusion of uniqueness, which I mean by that, we think we're the only one who. The fact is, all these issues are universal. You don't have to go through them alone. There are books that can help you. There are stories that can help you. There's a magazine that can help you. There's a podcast that can help you. Make sure you go to the website and find out more about all that. And if you have a story you want to share, if you've always felt that need or desire to share that story with others, they can help you do that as well. So thank you for joining us today, everybody. And please tune in next week. We look forward to seeing you. Until then, tell your story to somebody, and we'll see you next week.